Well, that's the aftermath of a horrible Christmas nightmare in eastern Germany, Magdeburg, Germany, where a madman drove his car purposely into a crowd, a peaceful, innocent crowd celebrating the Christmas season. At this point, and these numbers are expected to change, but 2 people dead, 68 injured. The numbers could go up. An arrest has already been made. Actually, immediately after that car, it was stopped and an individual was pulled out. We don't have the identity, but some reports say that he is a 50-year-old doctor originally from Saudi Arabia, and there he is in police custody. First, the scene that was destroyed, a beautiful Christmas yearly tradition in Magdeburg. There it is. Couldn't be more picturesque or quaint or lovely, right? And it was destroyed by a madman. Now we have the video, security camera footage. It's tough to watch. We blurred out the more gruesome parts, but take a look. Can you see what happened here? Car went through it, and we have a slow motion version. Luckily, more people weren't killed. A lot of people were yelling, and people knew to get out of the way. And the car makes a right turn, goes down that one kind of mall, and then hangs a sharp right and leaves the scene. You'll see this here. And stops a short time later. Germany has famously almost lost its soul. I mean, the migrant situation there has been a huge problem for the German government and the German people. We don't know who this individual was. There are some reports that he had actually been in Germany for almost 2 decades. So the investigation continues, but it reminds me of the Christmas massacre, quite similar to the one that happened in this country in 2021, Waukesha, Wisconsin. A madman, Darrell Brooks, who hated white people. And where could he have gotten that idea? Perhaps from the mainstream media? And the victims of that massacre, age 8 to 81, the victims. This was so strangely under-publicized and under-covered, under-reported. That car drove in, and the man behind the wheel, Darrell Brooks, ultimately convicted, life in prison. I just wish if this had received more attention and the anti-Christian nature of what happened, isn't it possible, maybe, that there would have been a global conversation and acts like what happened today in Germany, maybe it wouldn't have happened. Maybe it wouldn't have happened because I tell you what, like after George Floyd died, didn't we have a national conversation at first about race relations and police, right? Everybody took to the streets. A lot of people rioted, a lot of people broke stuff, but a lot of people just took to the streets, shut them down with their signs and with their misinformation about what really happened. Didn't happen just nationally, it happened globally. George Floyd, the name, internationally famous, and the facts, though, weren't. George Floyd, a criminal, lowlife, sorry, wish he wasn't dead, but I also wish he didn't have all those drugs in the system. I also wish the cops were treated fairly in that situation. Why was this highlighted? And the 6 victims in Waukesha, who were the victims really of anti-white, anti-religion terror, why was that forgotten? And Waukesha, Wisconsin was forgotten. Why are some things highlighted and some things aren't? Well, race has a huge role in it. It does, and it's awful. It shouldn't, but like, take a look at this. Do you notice anything? The assailant in Waukesha, black, the victims, white. This is a crime that makes the media, the government, Democrats, liberals very, very uncomfortable. They don't want to talk about this kind of situation. Now, the spa shootings, also in 2021. Do you remember those? That's a scenario that Democrats, the media, are far more comfortable with. And if they're not as comfortable as they'd like to be, they'll make it so that they're really comfortable. The assailant was white. The victims were primarily people of color, Asian, not all. They tried to say that this was about white supremacy, even though law enforcement said this wasn't about white supremacy. This was something kind of pseudo-sexual in nature. It didn't matter. They all went there to exploit it. The media, Democrats, and the top Democrats, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They didn't go to Waukesha, Wisconsin, but they took Air Force One to Atlanta to exploit this issue, to make it something it wasn't, white supremacy.
Attacks on some of the most vulnerable people in our nation, the elderly, low-wage workers, and women. In fact, Asian American women suffered twice as many incidents of harassment and violence as Asian American men.
Yeah, okay, but why is Joe having that conversation? Why? Because he's on safe ground, because the suspect was white. And how do people feel about white people, right? Especially during the Biden era. Well, this is how they feel about white people, right? Demonize them, and if they do something wrong, allegedly hype their race, make it about their race.
Here's the suspect, okay? He is a 21-year-old white man.
This 21-year-old white male mass murderer.
The suspect in custody is white.
Police say a 28-year-old white male carrying 2 handguns crashed a stolen truck into a building.
It's humanizing the shooter once again.
Yeah.
And can I point out that the shooter is a white man who is alive after they knew that he'd killed 8 people.
Yeah, Gail would have preferred that the cops just go in guns blazing, right? Make the decision that we know what's happening here. She was actually talking about the spa shooting, right? She's upset that the cops took the suspect alive. A white man who they know killed all those people. They just know that, so kill the guy. Gail would have been more satisfied. So it's a really sick game. I mean, I think most people, normal people, regular people, right, kind of strive to be colorblind. But so many aspects. And unfortunately, bad things happen. Bad things are happening because of this silly race conversation that we're about to correct in a big way. There's a guy on Instagram. He's called the Fit Responder. He's like a personal trainer, and I think he's also an EMT, but he's also just brilliant, and he makes these commentary videos about what's going on, and this captures a lot.
Sir, I think we have our headline story. A cop just shot and killed an unarmed suspect. Right. Make sure you don't use the word suspect in the title, though. That could imply that this guy did something wrong. We don't want that. We want this victim to be specifically identified by his skin color in the headline. Yeah, and make sure you don't mention anything about what he was doing wrong, whether he was fighting or committing a crime or running. Don't mention his criminal history. And in fact, if you can find an old photo of him, like in his Sunday's best, some cute little outfit, use that for the article. Got it? Yeah, and make sure you get a quote from one of his family members talking about how he's such a sweet guy, never did anything wrong. Maybe vaguely say that, you know, he was going through some rough times, but was just such a wonderful person. Okay, perfect. Cop shoots unarmed white man. Wait, hold on. The guy that got shot, he was white? Yeah, he was white. Yeah, don't cover that story. That's boring. Let's find something else.
It's funny because it's true and kind of sad as well. So back to George Floyd, the man who changed the world, right? George Floyd. The whole family gets up there to the White House to see Joe Biden. And Joe tells the story about, well, George Floyd and George Floyd's daughter and how they just changed the world.
I also spoke to Gianna, George's young daughter again. When I met her last year, I've said this before, at George's funeral, I told her how brave I thought she was. And I sort of knelt down to hold her hand. I said, Daddy's looking down on you, he's so proud. She said to me then, I'll never forget it, Daddy changed the world. And I told her this afternoon, Daddy did change the world.
So, changed the world, and that a false narrative was kind of forced on the whole world. George Floyd's family was there at the White House. That story actually, I think, did happen. That actually doesn't look like the White House to me. That's somewhere else, but they were at the White House. Imagine if he invited the families of the Waukesha victims to the White House. Maybe they could have changed the world as well. Make the world a better place. Make it where people aren't judged for the color of their skin or the faith that they practice, Christianity. Maybe Waukesha, if more people knew about this horror and there were global protests about how things like this should not happen and how obviously this is just something to be condemned, just maybe, what happened today in Germany wouldn't have happened. You see that? I could kind of see a tie-in. Unfortunately, when it came to religion during Joe Biden's term, he never spoke about it in a meaningful, powerful, helpful way. He only used it as a punchline.
The historic investments we're celebrating today is in Congressman Boebert's district. When my predecessor, the distinguished, anyway.
Not a leader, not a spiritual man, not a good guy. Sorry. Hate to see you go, Joe. Let's put him down and let's put something else up. Somebody who understands, I believe, a lot about what Christmas is all about. My older daughter, Annalise. She's in the back by the Christmas tree. My youngest is in the front there, Madeline. But actually, just today, Annalise sang me a song about Christmas. She learned it at chapel.
Baby Jesus, baby Jesus, born today, from his mother Mary, in the hay,
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.